So I stood on the line to talk to you afterwards. I didn't want to use my position to kind of get to the front, so I just waited. And then I started following you and just was so impressed by what you're doing and how you're helping your peers, and how lame, but I asked to be on your podcast. National news.
So what are the artifacts?
One is a Bible that he had taken when he was, with Martin Luther King, and then I think another is a book.
A book.
They've been there, and he was just saying that this Smithsonian was trying to say that we're on loan. He was just like, why is it all of a sudden you're trying to send them back?
Who really controls everything, and who has the power? Politicians or corporations? Or the money? The people with the big money?
The people have the power. The people have the power. But I don't know that we always are aware of the power that we have.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Young and Dumb Show. Y'all already know, I bring y'all the best people on earth when it comes to everything. We're going to talk about a lot today. And they say, when you want to build a business, a corporation, anything, and you want it to be good, you need a strong and an intelligent black woman on your team. And that is who we are speaking to today. And I am with Miss Karen Boykin-Towns. Hello, hello.
Hey.
Yes, we are having...
We made it happen.
Yes. And that's what we could do in life. Make things happen, I sound like my father. All right, but let's get to it. I guess first we can start talking about how we met, and I really want to talk to my peers about that, because we met at an event.
At an event.
In LA.
Not just any event.
And not just any event. You want to talk to them about it?
So we met back in February of this year at the NAACP Image Awards, where our Youth and College Division was doing a brunch.
Yes.
And it was fabulous.
Yes, that was one of the best brunches I've been to.
The location, yes, the vibe, the conversation, it was top tier.
Yes, no, I don't know who put that on, but they need a raise. it was amazing. Yes, it was a great event.
And so you were on this panel, and you were just spitting just facts. And when I heard that you were from Brooklyn, I'm like, I'm from Brooklyn. She's from Brooklyn. So I stood on the line to talk to you afterwards. I didn't want to use my position to kind of get to the front, so I just waited. And you gave me I think I gave you my card.
Yes.
And I said, please follow up.
Yes.
And you were like, okay, and you did. And then I started following you, and just was so impressed by what you're doing and how you're helping your peers, and how lame, but I asked to be on your podcast.
No, that's not lame at all.
So here we are.
No, yes, I appreciate that. And I think there's a couple of gems in that story you just gave. First thing is that, one, when you get an opportunity to go places, always show up as your best self. You get what I'm saying? I always like to say that God doesn't give you any opportunity that you're not deserving to have. That's and you don't deserve to be there. So when I was speaking on a panel, right, everyone there was famous, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But I showed up as myself. I didn't try to be anything that I wasn't. And me being myself, I got the same attention, got the same love, and met the same amount of people. So that's the first thing I want to say. And then two, when you meet people, follow up. Follow up with everyone. I literally texted, emailed every single person that I met, because you never know what that can turn into. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate your support, and I definitely wanted to say thank you, because what I find a lot of times is that sometimes people will say, no, I love the way you spoke, I love the way you did this, and then we'll follow up after the event, and it doesn't turn into anything, or it doesn't. Oh, wow. Yep. No support. No, it's just nothing. So I love the fact that it was a mutual conversation, a mutual thing, and now we're here.
And then I'm like your publicist, because I go places and I talk about you. I talk about Financial Revolution.
Thank you so much.
You're doing big things.
Thank you so much.
So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, then you gotta tell them about this other connection we found when I came here.
Oh yes, that my stepmother and my step grandfather, which is crazy. Dr. Amos Brown, and then he's also preparing for his retirement. Are you going to the?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm going to see him this weekend, but yeah, he's a legend. He is our NAACP historian.
Yes.
And he was recently in the news with all the kerfluffle about the Smithsonian and the African American Museum of History and Culture. Long story short, there was a story that came out that based on the administration's executive orders around DE&I, that the Smithsonian was going to have to, they were making changes with the artifacts, with what's in there, moving things out. And Dr. Brown has had 2 artifacts at the Blacksonian, as I guess they like to call it, and they were sending it back.
Oh, his artifacts.
Yeah. And they've been on loan since, I think, 2019, 2016, something like that. And all of a sudden, they're talking about sending them back. And it was on CNN. It was national news.
So what are the artifacts?
One is a Bible that he had taken when he was, with Martin Luther King, and then I think another is a book.
A book.
And so they've been there, and he was just saying that this Smithsonian was trying to say that the books the artifacts were on loan. He was just like, well, why is it all of a sudden you're trying to send them back? And now I think there's discussion about, whether or not they may consider it being permanent. Because, now all the spotlight and eyes are on, what are they doing over there? So, yeah.
Now that if we're on the topic of DEI, I did have a question in regards to DEI. Right. You worked in a lot of corporate spaces. You worked
One corporate space.
Well, yes. Pfizer.
Yes.
Right. And you worked there for 22
years.
22 years, I believe. What was your role at Pfizer?
When I retired in 2019, I was vice president of corporate affairs for our innovative medicines business, which was a $34 billion international business part of Pfizer. But probably 9 years into my tenure there, the CEO at the time, Jeff Kindler, asked me if I would become the company's first chief diversity officer. And that was because the company was investing millions and millions and millions of dollars. Executives were putting in tons of hours, and we weren't getting the outcomes. It wasn't really producing what it was that the vision of the company was. And so wanted me to, come in and see what I could do to help get us an integrated global strategy that would really help move the needle on our diversity and inclusion efforts. Back then, it was not equity; it was just diversity and inclusion.
All right, so I'm gonna break that down for the young people who may not understand that, right? Because I was also listening to what was I listening to before? I was listening to the mayor of New Jersey right before this, and
the mayor of Newark.
Newark, Newark, New Jersey. I forgot his name.
Ras Baraka.
Yes, Ras Baraka. Yes, and something that he mentioned, and something that I just believe in as well, is that companies, especially American companies, once they realize that when they include DEI into their funding, their spending, everything, it's going to help them make more money, right? Because when everyone has more access to capital, now they have more access to spend money, which is going to make them more money.
Right.
Now, knowing that, how come companies don't want to be more diverse and spend more money with more people?
So that's a very complicated question, but a very simple question. And I will start by saying that I think there are 3 buckets that companies are in. And this is since the murder of George Floyd in 2020. There are those companies that have had a track record of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so they doubled down. There were those who took the opportunity to get involved, and so they just started on the journey. And then there are those that really don't want to, and was just like, kind of, okay, we'll do
if we have to.
If we have to.
Yeah.
So fast forward, and I would also say that those of us who have been around knew that when we saw all of those pledges and proclamations we knew that the window was going to be open for a short period of time. Didn't know how long, but knew that this was not going to be something that carried forth. Mm-hmm. So maybe 2 years. And that's about what we got. In light of the elections of November 2024, things kind of have gone haywire in the sense that, the president has assumed his role. He comes out with 43 executive orders, it
goes crazy.
Fast and furious. So for those 3 buckets, the ones who really didn't want to do it anyway,
they was like, we good.
We out.
We good.
We out.
We good.
Those that have been doing the work for a long time, they're a little skittish, and they're like, well, what do we need to do to try and ensure that we can continue but not have our head up to get lobbed off? And then you have the third bucket who is now like, what do we do? What do we do? And trying to figure it out based on how the winds are blowing. But at the end of the day, your premise is right, and research backs it up, that the business case has been studied to death. And the business case shows that companies that pursue inclusion and diversity, that they perform better.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. How are you going to go into a market like Mexico and you don't have people who understand the culture, can speak the language, can sort of ensure that they build a team of people that understand and can meet the mission? I mean, it's ridiculous on its face, and most companies understand that, and most times Washington does not understand what it takes to run a public corporation, and therefore they are going to have to do what's in the best interest of their stakeholders and in many instances, and their shareholders at the end of the day. And here we are.
Yeah, I agree. Now, with that, what do you suppose us young people do? Right? Because I feel like oftentimes we find ourselves feeling like we're powerless. Right? Or we could just kind of
Some
speak.
adults too.
Yes. Or sometimes we could speak about issues, but it's just like, what could we really do? Like, even what's going on today, I'm not sure if you guys know, but they're trying to cut out Medicaid, right? And it came from a legislation passed by the Energy and Commerce Committee. Right? And what I learned is that whoever controls the House, which are the Republicans, they control the head, the chairperson of all the committees.
That's right.
So if the chairperson is now a Republican and agrees to cut the Medicaid, what do we do? Like, what do we do besides talk about it?
Well, first and foremost, for transparency purposes, my father-in-law was a member of Congress for 30 years.
Really?
Adolphus Towns.
Oh, wow. For what?
For Congress. He actually succeeded Shirley Chisholm.
Oh, really?
So he replaced Shirley Chisholm, and she supported him when he ran, and he retired, and guess who took his seat when he retired?
Yvette.
Nope.
No. Wait.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh, Hakeem. Okay.
Our Democratic leader. So Brooklyn has stellar representation and has had for decades. So yes. So with the Congress, indeed, whoever went, and that's what made this election so just devastating, because it wasn't just the fact that, Democrats did not win the White House, but they did not take back the House. And therefore, lost the Senate.
Yes.
And therefore, Republicans have all three levers of government, which means that they can, if you play cards, run the board. But at the end of the day, there are an elected official's number one goal is to get reelected. That when you are running for office, your number one job and goal is to get reelected.
Or move up.
Yeah. But definitely get reelected. And so some of this stuff that is going on, people have to report back to the people who voted for them. And some of this stuff, as you see with some of the town hall meetings that are happening around the country, for which Republicans are trying not to hold because people are getting pissed off because, if you're a farmer, your subsidies are not coming through, the price of eggs, is still high, the economy, people have lost jobs. If you're a federal worker, there's a lot of stuff going on that people are not happy with. And so, yes, the Republicans won the election. And so they are the chairs of each of the committees. There is the Democrats are the ranking, it's called the ranking member.
Yes.
And so what can we do? We have to stay vigilant. We have to stay informed. You have to, continue to be engaged, because to sit back and not do anything means there's no resistance. And, and we must organize, because there are people who do not agree with it, and we have to form alliances. We have to have partnerships. We have to work in coalition to really sort of make our voices heard and to push back.
So I get that, but I guess my thing is just okay, we know the people who are against Medicaid, canceling of Medicaid. We know the people who don't like some of the policies that are being passed and stuff like that. Okay, we got that. We're angry, we're mad, we're talking about it. You have 1 million people in a room together who all want to talk about it. How do we change stuff like that? I just feel like sometimes we just get so caught up in talking about the issue, and we spend all our dollars and all our money and all our focus on talking, and on the transportation to get into talking, on the food to prepare people when we're talking. And it's just where's that energy and that effort going into actually making change? Sometimes I feel like you could be informed so much that you just spent all your time learning. Now you're tired.
Well, and let's go back to Medicaid, though. But because the thing is that Medicaid isn't just an issue for Black and brown people.
I agree. Yeah.
And, in the Black community, when our family members get old, generally we'll set up a hospital bed in the living room and we'll take care of them. Where in other communities, folks go to nursing homes, right? When they go to nursing homes, more times than not, Medicaid is paying the bill. And so there are going to be a lot of grandparents and parents having to be taken out of these nursing homes and coming home.
They're not going like
families
that.
That's not really what people are going to want. And so as information is starting to come out, people are hold on, wait a minute. I thought you were supposed to be getting them, not me. So, it's just, while sometimes it feels like change is not happening, or we're not making progress in terms of having our voices heard, it's not always the case, because if people aren't talking about what is happening, people are not going to get informed. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people that don't understand. Medicaid goes, your elders are going to be in your house, and I don't know if that's what you want.
What's good, y'all? It's Aaliyah from Financial Revolution. Are you broke or are you brilliant? This is the #1 financial literacy drinking game. This is a way for you to test your financial knowledge with your friends, with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, anybody. So now here's how you play the game. So we have Q&A cards. These Q&A cards have different financial questions, such as, what does APR stand for? Do you know what that stands for? If you get it correct, you receive a currency card. The more currency cards you have, that's how you win the game. Now, where it gets fun and cool, people have to take a shot for their poor financial decisions that they made. So we have take a shot cards. So now on this take a shot card, it says, take a shot if you don't have stocks. Or take a shot if you don't have credit. Or take a shot if you ever paid an overdraft fee. I know y'all would be drunk by now. Now, make sure you go to my website and you get your Broker Brilliant today so that you could play this. Again, this is a fun financial literacy drinking game, and you might see a little discount. Run over. Let's get it, y'all. Back to the episode.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. But I don't know. Sometimes, and also again, right? I think maybe it could be what you're seeing too, because I feel like, you know, we create narratives based off of what we see. So I know my social media feed be a bunch of people talking a lot of times. So I think sometimes I'll be like, bro, shut up. Come on now. Like,
but you're right that there needs to be action. You know, to pontificate. Okay, now what? So I think that to find ways to get involved. And so we've already been talking a lot about Washington versus what's happening here in Brooklyn and New York City and New York State, because there are a lot of issues that are happening at the local level for which we have better opportunities to leverage our power and make change. But a lot of times, you know, people are caught up with the sexiness of Washington versus, you know, the parts of government that really impact us more heavily.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. But yeah, while we're on this topic, the last question I do want to ask is, like, a lot of the work you've done was on the intersection between policy and also in corporate spaces and businesses and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So I have a little political question, right?
All these questions have been political thus far, but okay. Let's go.
But who really controls everything and who has the power? Politicians or corporations? Or the money? The people with the big money?
The people have the power. The people have the power. But I don't know that we always are aware of the power that we have.
But does that make us powerless? Because if you all right, for example, if I'm at war with you, but they figure out, and I have a whole group of people and we're stronger, we're faster, we're both everything. Mm-hmm. We know we could beat you. Mm-hmm. But if they get us to start fighting each other, now we become less powerful because we're not one.
It's called divide and conquer.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So if they've been dividing and conquering us, because even to your point, what you said earlier, right? Medicaid doesn't just impact black people. Mm-hmm. However, there were a lot of people who voted for Republicans and for Trump and stuff like that because they just wanted the power of knowing that I want to do that, right? But not knowing.
Did they do it because of that, or did they do it because they liked the imagery of what he conveys of, you know, not taking crap from anybody and just being, you know, appearing to be strong? And like, I mean, I've watched some of the outtakes and, you know, read a lot of the commentary in terms of why people might have thought it was a good idea if they were black or brown to vote for Trump. Totally, I do not agree with that. You know, and I should probably say the NAACP is nonpartisan, but we are political as hell. We are political as hell. And so to see, you know, how people could vote against their best interests, not to say that, you know, the other candidate was, you know, everything everybody wanted to be, but to me, it's about who is it that you could probably have a conversation with, that you could, you know, do the work to influence, to listen to your point of view. And it's very, very hard to get this president to be empathetic to the issues that are of importance to our community.
Yeah, I agree. And that's my point, where I feel like we're not at, I believe 1,000% the people have the power. I agree with that. However, I feel like when you mess with the minds of the people and you divide the people up and they're not unified, they become less powerful. And that's what has been going on between us for for a long time, right?
Misinformation and disinformation,
Yes.
with what, the Russians are set to be doing in terms of, these bots and, giving people misinformation and disinformation. It's real.
Yeah, even with like the Bacon's Rebellion, I was looking at that up, and it was talking about how, like, at one point there were white slaves and there were black slaves, right? And it was like the indentured slaves.
Yep.
And they saw themselves as one, right? Because it was like, yo, we're both going through this hell, right? Until they realized that, and they said, "Oh snap, we can't have that." So I have to give these white people a certain amount of pride, so that they feel like they are above.
That's right.
These black people or this other group of people, and that's what kind of spread this supremacy.
That's right.
That's lasted for a long time, and that's why
for
I feel
the for 400 plus years.
Yes.
Right? Like that is and it's a social race is a social construct that is in place so that others can feel powerful and suppress or try and oppress others.
I agree 1,000%. So to the point though, okay, the political answer was the people have the power. Do the politicians or do the corporations and the money has the power?
So, having spent 22 years in corporate America, but my start was in politics. Right out of college, I was hired by my then state senator, David Patterson, who later became governor and is my bestest friend in the whole wide world, like my big brother and godfather to our children. Well, I think they would be offended if I called them children at 29 and 23. So our daughters,
yes,
please fix that before they see it. But what I would say is this: corporations do a good job of ensuring that there is understanding of their issues. And they hire people known as lobbyists, whose job it is to be in touch with the elected officials to ensure they are aware of what is important. And we, as communities, we need to do a better job of making sure that the people who we elect are aware of what is important to us, and that if they are not carrying out what it is that we sent them there for, that we will vote them out. Too often we will vote for someone and they go to Washington or Albany or City Hall and that's it.
Yeah,
and
we're not holding them accountable.
We're not holding them accountable. We're not going to the town hall meetings. We're not writing the letters. We're not going into the district office and meeting with them. Man, are we even reading their newsletters to see what they're talking about? So, companies will do what they have to do to ensure that their issues are, I wouldn't say on the front burner, but that the issues that they care about are known, and they are, paying people to ensure that that communication is happening on a fairly regular basis.
So I get that. So now I guess the question is, how do we stop that from happening, right? So how do I, and honestly too, like the issue becomes so big because, like, for example, I'm in the school systems and I see how they have us lost from young.
Yes.
Right? Because let's say I'm speaking to, prime example. Today I'm talking to one of my kids. He's in 7th grade, I believe. Yeah, 7th grade.
So that's junior high school.
Junior high school. I had them do this activity where they had 15 minutes to create a business idea where they went from $0 to $100,000 in a year.
Okay.
Right? So he's pitching the idea to me, and this is what he says. He goes, I'm going to move to Texas. And I said, okay. And I'm going to live in a white neighborhood, and I have to turn white.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, so I just stopped him right there. because I can't really let that go past me. I address it. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I can't be black and do this, so I got to turn white. So I went on a whole tangent for like 20 minutes. I think he never gonna want to talk to me again, but that's okay. But I see from
but it was
young,
important.
It's important. But the reason why I put that up is because I have these situations all the time where at a very young age we have our young people whose minds are already lost. Like they're already lost. They're no longer like connected to what they need to be connected from. If I tell them like, hey, call your city council member if you don't like this going on in your neighborhoods, they wouldn't even care to do that. They're trying to catch the next thing that's going on. They trying to be relevant to their friends and their peers. Yeah. So how do we make sure that the next generation, because I always feel like the revolution starts with the young, right? With the young people, right? Like,
absolutely.
If we have to be able to pour into them so that they become the next generation that pours into the next generation and keeps the cycle going. So how do we break that barrier there? Because I feel like it's really an issue that we have, and I don't like to make issues black or white, but I'm black, so I try to speak to black people. All right, especially, and that's who I talk to. So I'm like, whenever I'm thinking about a solution, I'm thinking about what can us young black people do. Like even my peers that I have here, we're all about trying to figure out how can we bring this information back to our peers to make sure that it's delivered a certain way and that we can really solve the issue.
And this is what I love about you and what you're doing, because I think there's some that want to say, oh, young people don't care about this, young people don't care about that, they're apathetic. And to wipe a whole generation with this broad brush is not really fair, because there are people like you and your friends here and a number of others, many of those young people who are members of the NAACP who do care, and they're trying. And what we know is that it is the peer-to-peer interactions that is really going to get people turned around, young people turned around to be interested. Me coming and talk to them, yeah, that'll work. No, but really having young people talk about it. But civics isn't taught in schools.
No.
Financial literacy isn't taught in schools, and we'll get to that, I'm sure. But civics isn't taught in school. And so with that not being there, well, maybe you're too young to remember Schoolhouse Rock.
Why does that sound familiar? Schoolhouse Rock?
Where it had the bill, how a bill becomes the law. My name, what is it? I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, now so it was a whole. So that was Schoolhouse Rock was on TV on Saturday mornings, and they had all of these, songs and things that kind of talked about how a bill becomes a law and these different things. And that was a way that, young people learned. It was in school. And now I don't know if a number of young people know that the capital of New York is Albany. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you'll be surprised.
Huh?
You'll be surprised. They don't know.
And so, and that is something that has to be addressed. And certainly the schools can't do everything. And so it's important that as a community, we find ways to, engage them and, find out how, what sparks their interest, because just lecturing or telling them you need to, it has to be a connection. Is it the connection because they want a new community center where they can play basketball, or where they can have music lessons, or where they have video games to kind of teach, all of these sorts of gaming skills. We have to meet people where they are, and that includes our young people, and to hear, and you're with them every day, and so you have a bird's eye view of kind of the challenges that are there, but we can't give up on them, that's for sure.
No, I agree with that, but I think I love this conversation, and the reason why is because not a lot of your peers are as nice and cool as you. And I'm going to break down what I mean by that.
Oh my goodness.
No, seriously.
So I gotta represent the old people.
No, not old people. But I'm just saying. You know, I'm not saying old people. Right. But what I mean by that is sometimes, and this is what I had to learn and what I saw is, and I'm trying to make a generalization without making a generalization. There's a specific group of people who place these labels on us young people because they've had experience with a couple of them and they're fed up. They're like, oh, like this kid is this. Or I'll go to a school and they'll say, don't talk to little Johnny. Yeah, he's messed up. And I'll talk to him and he's a cool kid.
Right.
But he already has a label placed on him because of past experience and things like that. And this could be
not
someone
not knowing what he's dealing with at home or anything.
Exactly.
Or the fact that maybe he's really smart and he's not, feeling kind of what the teacher is doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of things that can be going on in a kid's head for which, adults will shut them down because they shut themselves off.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think what happens is the labels are placed on them. And what tends to happen, and what I see all the time, is that young people get attention in two ways. Like majority of young people. One way is if they're an athlete.
For sure.
And they're that star athlete. So now everybody wants to be like that kid. Because that kid is getting all the love, all the attention, all that. Right? And that's what the adults feed into. Not the kid who's on an honor roll. No, the kid who on an honor roll is like, they're going to be okay. Congratulations, proud of you. But the kid who scored or did something last night at the game, all the love. So now what does every kid want to replicate? They want to become that athlete, this. And then the kid who's a troublemaker. They're the kid who gets a lot of love as well. Or in attention. And now what do kids now want to replicate? That. And that happens from older generations pouring that down to younger generations, and it just continues. So now when I see a young kid, like for example, one of my kids today got on an honor roll, I highlighted him like he dunked the ball. Just because I want another kid in the classroom to say, I want to do that. Right. I want to be like that. Yeah. Even for me, I'll be very honest. There was a point in my life where I thought that negativity got more attention than positivity. Because that's what I saw. And then your dad kind of fixed that. My dad don't play that, yes. But my dad definitely helped fix that, and things like that. But also, it at some point too, it doesn't matter what your household is saying because you're going out into a world. That's right. And when you're going out to a world and who you're around is super important. When you go out to a world, you're trying to be cool and validated by who you're around. Right? And if you don't know yourself and if you're not, secure with who you are, you'll start to just become of the world because you don't really have a sense of self and who you are. That's right. So at home, you could be being taught wonderful things, but you get out into the world and you try to be like the world. Yeah. Right? So I think I just want to commend you for just being an amazing person because, I see a lot of adults sometimes that's just like, you're the reason why. Yeah. And then sometimes when you put a label on a kid, that label will follow them for the rest of their career. And they begin to internalize it and then say, I can't because... when an adult or someone who you may look up to, and a teacher is a authority figure, is saying you're not crap, or you're just bad, or you're not smart, or whatever the things are that may happen, it can really damage a kid. And then there are systems that then will deal with that, and it is not positive. Yeah. I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that there's so much power in the tongue, and certainly the Bible talks about that. But how you show up for someone can many times set them off
in a good way or in a bad way. And we don't always know what that positive, interaction can do to really, set someone off in the right direction, or to really help them to be like, oh, that's the affirmation I needed, and I'm going to keep going. And so I think we all need to be mindful of how we show up. And everyone has issues. But what does Tabitha Brown say?
What does she say? I don't know.
She says something along the lines of, have a good day. And if you don't have a good day, don't go about messing up someone else's.
No, that's a fact.
It's just like, if I'm having a bad day,
just keep that to myself.
Right.
Keep your funk to yourself.
I don't need to be spreading it.
Yeah.
So,
I agree 1,000%. And even like the president, Makola Abdullah of Virginia State, he was the president of my college. I asked him to come on my podcast one time, and he said yes. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. It was a great episode, whatever. And he was like, yeah, I always say yes to you because it gives you the confidence to ask somebody else for something.
Wow.
And that stuck to me because it's just like, that lets me know that when I do something for someone, and sometimes, a lot of times, people be shy to ask for something.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times. But when you say yes, it gives them all the confidence that they need to keep going. And I like to look at confidence as this, like, bottle. You have an empty water bottle, no confidence. But then as you keep pouring into it, you pour a little drop, different experiences that you have that go well, it starts to be overflowed and filled up. And now you have all of this confidence, but it's because of things that you developed over time, experience that you had with people over time. So I just try to always look when I'm dealing with people, how am I impacting this person's life? Am I giving them confidence? Am I adding to them? Am I giving them the reassurance that they are able and willing to do something? Because that's what we're all doing for people. We're either adding to them or we're making them feel like, I can't do this.
Yeah. It's funny because I have two daughters, Jasmine, who is 29, and Trinity, who is 23. She'll be 24 in September. And both of them are in corporate America. Jasmine works at Apple. Trinity works at Pfizer. And we have this thing now called #shameless. And it's because so often, you're like, oh, I'm not going to ask. And so it's just like, nope, #shameless, because you have not, because you ask not. And you're not going to get, what is that saying? Closed mouths don't get fed.
Yep.
So all, go for it.
Yeah. Worst thing you can hear is no.
Worst thing you can hear is no.
No, yeah, for sure. Great conversation so far. So I do want to move on and talk about the NAACP.
Oh, okay.
National Association for the Advancement
for which I learned you were the president of your college chapter.
Yes, which was crazy. It just kind of happened. I don't know. It was during the pandemic too. Yes. So the NAACP does amazing work. You serve as the vice chair for the board of directors for the NAACP. So you make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, basically. Right.
And I'm a volunteer. Yes. Because as you know, but most people don't know, is that the NAACP, which operates in, communities across this country, are led by volunteers. Now, our president and CEO, Derek Johnson, he's a paid employee, as are the members of our national staff. But the majority of people who you will ever come in contact with are volunteers.
Wow. All right. So speak to us on what are the roles. Give us 3 exact roles of what the NAACP does.
To make it in its simplest form, we advocate, we agitate, and we litigate.
Okay, that was good. Advocate, agitate, and then litigate. Okay. For whom?
For Black people, primarily, but for marginalized communities.
Got it. So how do cases or issues get on the radar of the NAACP? Like, how does that work?
Last week, yes.
Okay.
My time sometimes.
got you.
I can't keep
we're
up.
in May,
But last week, we were in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay.
For resolutions, and resolutions come up through college chapters, youth councils, local branches, or state conferences. So what that means is if there is an issue that is happening that you want the NAACP to address, you can write a resolution, it gets submitted, and this committee of 35 people, and we had over like 144 submitted that this committee had to review, and it took 2.5 days. Started work on Wednesday at I think 2 p.m. and finished on Friday at 2 p.m. Working till 8, 9, one night at like 10 o'clock at night, reviewing. Now, some of them are duplicate in nature. You know, a lot of them had to do with things that are happening with the administration, erasure of our history. Some had to do with educational issues and funding. But, you know, we went through them all, and at our national convention in Charlotte on Tuesday, all day Tuesday, is where we address resolutions. So the resolutions process is by which the issues that NAACPers from around the country want us to address. So we're not a top-down organization. We are a bottoms-up organization. And so the issues that we take up are those that come from our members from around the country. And, you know, we will vote on the resolutions during the convention. And then those that are voted upon will go to the national board for our October meeting, where they will get ratified, and then they're sent out to members across the country to then take them and take action upon them, because putting stuff on paper without any action, in my mind, is a waste of time. Mm-hmm. So it is important that then, you know, if we took up this issue on public education, that then the education chair here at our Brooklyn NAACP branch would then be able to say, okay, this is a resolution. This is what we need to be doing around education, and activate the committee. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and we have to simplify it so that, you know, life is lifing. Mm-hmm. People are going to school. People are working. People are parenting. People are maybe struggling. And so if you want people to take action, you really need to break it down in bite-sized pieces so that, and not assume that they know what to do, but give enough flexibility so that they can put their own sort of sauce on it, so to speak. But at least they understand what the goal is and the steps, because I think we make a lot of assumptions for people, which, you know, and you know what happens when you assume.
Yeah, so I get the process. So I guess my question is, okay, I have an issue in my community. I reach out to, I guess, my local NAACP branch.
Yep,
so if
the
I have
Brooklyn
an issue,
branch.
Yeah, so if I have an issue here in Brooklyn, I reach out to the Brooklyn branch.
Yep.
If my issue has something to do with, let's say, politics or like the city or something like that, does the local branch have connections with like the city council and the people who makes legislation to, I guess, advocate on my behalf?
Full transparency again. I was the president of the Brooklyn branch.
Really?
For 7 years.
Oh, wow. What haven't you done?
This is it is crazy that this year would be 20 years ago when I was tapped to reactivate the Brooklyn branch, because for a few years, Brooklyn did not have an NAACP unit. Mm-hmm. And then President Hazel Dukes, who was like my second mom, tapped me to reorganize the branch, and so built it up over 7 years. Then L. Joy Williams, she was like my first, like she came in and she had a couple of roles. Then she became my first vice president. And these roles aren't things that I think you should think you have to hold on to for life.
So
right?
let it go.
Leaders, good leaders, develop other leaders. And so I was growing my career at Pfizer. I had 2 children. I was married, a lot going on. I was the president of the branch. And so seeing her potential, began, working with her. And then maybe 5 years in, it's like, okay, let's make a plan so that you can be president. So I'm going to start stepping back so you can step forward, so people could see her leadership, could get comfortable with her leadership. And year 7, we made that switch and she got elected. And so, yes, the Brooklyn branch and most branches around this country have deep relationships with elected officials, whether it is here in New York, whether it is our Brooklyn Borough president, whether it is Mayor Adams, whether it is any of the council members, whether it is Governor Hochul, Speaker Hasty, Majority Leader Stuart Cousins. Like, there is
the relationship is there.
The relationship to be able to have access. But what we try to make sure that our leaders across the country understand is proximity to power doesn't necessarily mean power, right? So just because you can get them on the phone, that's important, but influence to get them to listen to your point of view
matters,
is important.
That was good. Proximity to power doesn't always mean power. That was good. I guess my question is, right, I'm gonna speak on behalf of the people, right? Okay. A lot of times what I see is that we have these grassroots organizations, right? Organizations that started off on a very grassroots level, right? From how they started, we had like the Black Panther movement, you have the United Negro, you have the NAACP, right? And some lasted, like the NAACP is still around.
116 years.
Yes. Some, we don't know where they are.
Right.
But what we see is as they tend to grow sometimes, some people feel like they become disconnected from the cause that they're supposed to be helping, right? Like the corporation becomes so large now, it's helping people all over the world now it's like, okay, it's not here directly in Brooklyn. It's not here on this block, or I don't see it in my community. So what would you say to people who feel like, organizations are just disconnected from the people that they're supposed to help?
So I like to say that the NAACP is only as good as the people that are in a particular branch. When you say organizations get so big, first off, there is a NAACP unit in, there are 2,200 around the country in 46 states. And they are local. The problem is when people want national to come in and do local stuff. Because national does not necessarily have the relationships that the Brooklyn branch would have with its local communities. And so some people want to think that, it's not important unless Derek Johnson is in Brooklyn talking about the issue. No.
Say who Derek Johnson is. Some people may not know.
Sorry. Derek Johnson is our NAACP president and CEO. So, and we have to, our local leaders are powerful, and they are the ones that must be, on the ground talking about the issues and mobilizing people and mobilizing the churches and the sororities and the fraternities, really coming together, bringing coalition power to address issues. So,
wait, let me stop you here though.
Okay.
Real quick. Because I like the point that you just said, right? So the local chapters are supposed to be the chapter that's mobilizing people, the churches, the everything. When I walk into these local chapters, even when I go to community board meetings, I see a bunch of elders. And it's no offense. It's no offense. But it's just like, I truly believe there's more young people in communities than there are elders.
For sure.
So how is it that, and that's why I feel like sometimes we see a lot of movements die out, because there's no passing of the baton. There's no passing of the knowledge, or there's no like, come with me to this event, or this is like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll go to a lot of rooms, a lot of meetings where a lot of decisions are being made, and it's like 5 people in there. Everyone there, it's like 60. It'll be like an 80-year-old in there.
Right, always.
And then they'll say, honey, what you doing here? What you know about this? Am I not supposed to know?
Right.
You know? And I think that's where the problem lies. Right? So what do you say to your peers who are not passing the baton, who's not giving us the information, who's not bringing us to the parties, who are not telling us where to go? Like, how are we supposed to learn how to advocate for ourselves if we're not invited?
Yeah. So I believe that the NAACP is one of the, and it's not that I believe, it is a fact, that the NAACP is one of the only organizations that elects young people to its board of directors. We have 7, and they are some of the baddest young people
That's dope.
I mean, you should be one, but we have, and they're elected. They're elected by their peers, and they are regional. So we have 7 regions, and so there's 7 of them, and they sit around our 64-member board table, and they are on committees. And they are engaged, and they have one vote, just like I have one vote. And they are amazing. We have a National Youth Work Committee, which is representative of young people around the country, and they help to develop what the issues of importance of young people are that the association should be focused on. And you know Derek Lewis,
yes,
who is our national Youth and College Director. So intergenerational leadership is so important. And it is incumbent on the older generations to have young people involved. And it's not involved just to have them sitting there and listening. It's about having them help with the strategy. And because young people don't want to just be window dressing. You know, if they are going to be there, they want to have a say, as they should. And our youth board members are at the table. They are leading these discussions in many instances, and they are very important to how it is that we operate. Now, when you go to the community board, I must admit, I don't know many young people going to a community board meeting. But they should, because they're the ones in the schools. They're the ones that many times know what's happening. But I think it goes with what we were talking about earlier, the disconnect in terms of feeling this stuff is important, maybe not having the confidence. But we need to do a better job. The Brooklyn branch has a youth council, and the youth council, they have their own president, their own vice president, they have their own leadership, and so the NAACP provides leadership training, where how do you know how to lead unless you're able to do it? And so they run their meetings, and they have a youth advisor. They have an advisor. Yeah. But they are responsible for, conducting themselves, and that's how you learn Robert's Rules of Order and those sorts of things. But, there definitely have been generations that have been like, if you want power, you have to snatch it. Well, we should probably have succession planning, as we were talking earlier.
That's what I think,
where we talk about mentorship. And I find mentorship, whenever I'm mentoring a younger person, I think a lot of times I'm getting more from them than they're getting from me, because the best sort of mentorship is where it is, mutual.
Yes. No, I agree 1,000%. The last question I just have in regards to the NAACP is, how did it expand? I know 116 years is a long time, so definitely over time. But how do places get chapters? Like, my high school had an NAACP
Yes.
branch.
Yes.
So, like,
You in all the right places.
you know? How does it get everywhere? It's like the NAACP. You don't go anywhere without seeing the NAACP. If there's black people, the NAACP is there. And that is core branding right there. But how does that happen? How do you, like, let's say if I built a school and I wanted the school to have an NAACP branch, I apply for it, like, how does that?
So we need to be in more places. We need more people to be members. And a youth membership is $10. You can't even go to McDonald's and get, you know, one of the meals for $10.
You can't.
An adult,
not no more.
An adult membership is $30. You can't even take two people to the movies for $30, and don't want no popcorn or something to drink.
Popcorn $30.
So I mean, it is really affordable. I think that a lot of people may not know how to get involved with the NAACP. And if I'm going to keep it 100 with you, there are some branches where they have their little crew and they don't really want more people in because that might jeopardize their power structure. But we should be trying to get, especially during these times that we're living in right now, we need to be getting the chapters, branches filled with people wanting to join, to be, you know, to use their influence to help us be more powerful in our advocacy. But there's some places where they kind of like it like that because no one's then going to run against them for president or treasurer or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
they power structure.
But how do you, so if you have, for youth, I think it's 25 members, 25 people who join, and you submit a charter or a request for a charter, and, you know, it gets reviewed, and then the national board will vote on it, and it's a process, but it's not difficult.
That clarifies some stuff, because I'm like, dang, the NAACP is really everywhere, which is a good thing, you know. But yeah, so
and it's where you're going in Columbia. There's a
NAACP there too.
There's a college chapter.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be a part of that.
Absolutely, you need to take it over.
Take it over. Take it over. But yes, this was a wonderful conversation. I enjoyed my time here with you. I guess my last question would be, as a woman who wears a lot of hats, right? Because I like to talk about adulting here. A woman who wears a lot of hats and you have a family at home, how do you balance everything?
Well, I'm an empty nester now. You know, Jasmine lives in San Jose, California.
Oh, wow.
Trinity lives in Knightdale, North Carolina. And so, you know, and the cat is gone, you know, rest in peace, Chewy.
Oh, wait, that's not funny, sorry.
Yeah, rest in peace, Chewy.
Rest in peace.
So, and we don't have plants because travel too much, and, you know, keeping it alive would probably be difficult. It's easier now than when I was growing my career and had, you know, youngsters, right? But as Black women, as you know, we make it happen. And when we make it happen, we have to do it where we're also being mindful and taking care of ourselves, because what is that saying when you fly on a plane? You know, in case of an emergency, put your mask on first before helping others. And I don't know that we are always good at that. I don't know that I've always been good at that. But yeah, so it's about time management. It's about, you know, keeping, you know, I work out. You've seen some of my stuff. You see some of my stuff. Yeah. So it's about taking care of yourself and remembering that, you know, if you can't help anybody if you are not taking care of yourself. And, you know, it's hard to give from an empty cup. So you have to keep yourself, you know, in good shape, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually as well. I got married when I was 30. I got married when I was 30.
That's really young.
Really?
Yeah.
30. And
I'm 22. That's That's
Wow.
that's right.
So, and we will celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary in August.
Congratulations.
And so excited about that. It feels like maybe 18 years.
Wow.
Except when he gets on my nerves, and then it might feel like 21. but it definitely does not feel like 30. And
wow, 30 years.
So I worked in politics that time. I think I went into corporate America when I was 31, and had Jasmine when I was 31, I think. But what I have learned is that you can have it all, but not at the same time. You can have it all, but not at the same time. And I had a global job at after like year 9, but I traveled a lot. My husband at the time was an elected official. He was a member of the New York State Assembly.
Wow.
And so, and I had this big job at Pfizer. We had these kids. Definitely, we talk about our village, and our village is so really happy to see, Jasmine's an engineer, Trinity's an engineer. And it's not just because we were great parents. It was because we had people in our lives who helped us, who, guided us, who, invested in the girls. And so what I would say is family is what matters the most, because when the world is kicking your butt, all you got is your family. They are going to be there for you. Like, no job, no organization is going to be like, "Ooh, you okay?" No, it's when you go home. And I've been really blessed to have, a great husband, a great family support system, great friends. As you grow, certainly you have those people that you gotta dispense with after a while, because not everyone is meant to be with you forever. Yeah. Sometimes there's a season for which people are in your lives, or which you're in someone else's life. But family is important, but you want to ensure that you're making good choices. And not just saying, my clock is ticking and I gotta get with somebody because I want to have kids by the time I'm 30. Like, that's not, that plan.
It doesn't really work out.
That can be kind of tough.
No, that was good. I know I keep saying last question, but what you say sparks another question. But this I have last two for.
It's okay.
So 30 years of marriage. That's a long time. A long time to be with the same person for 30 years. That's a long time.
Okay.
What are some characteristics or skill sets, or what should we as young people be working on to become a wife or husband and last this long time? Because honestly, what I see is a lot of our young people, we don't have examples of long marriages anymore. Yes. Especially, the music doesn't really promote that. Everything kind of promotes individualism. Yes. Everybody for themselves, live for the moment. We don't really see real examples of things lasting, investing into something, and holding on to something and nurturing something. Because you got to nurture a marriage and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So what have you found are just 3 core principles that you and your husband needed to have to keep that relationship going?
That's a great question. I think first and foremost, it was that we wanted to build together. And what is so powerful is to see where we started and kind of like where we are now. And it's pretty freaking incredible. Because, every day wasn't, unicorns and rainbows, but you stick it out, right? You work together and remember what it was that attracted you to want to be together and to work through it. Therapy is something I think, is important. Not just couples therapy, but individual therapy, because we all come into a relationship with stuff.
Baggage.
And so it's important that we not look to someone else to make us happy, right? We have to do that work within ourselves. And so it's important to be, to be dealing with those things that might be triggers, or those things that, because I remember my mom would always say, you got to be able to take care of yourself. You don't need a man, and those sorts of things. And yeah, it's important to be able to take care of yourself, but at the same time, it's okay to sort of build with someone. Now, you don't want to build with no fool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to, be looking for someone. And I talk to my girl, like, what is cute anyway? Like, what is cute? Now, yeah, I guess, you don't, like, we need to move away from the superficial things.
And real.
But you need to be attracted to the person.
Yeah,
that is important.
I agree with that.
That is important. But it's just like, you want someone who has good character. Someone who is, about something. And so I think what I love the most is our girls talk about they want to marry someone like their dad. And so it keeps me on my knees praying, because it's rough out here from what I understand.
Look at
So
no, I think
on both sides.
Y'all was the last.
It's rough out here for women trying to find somebody, and for men trying to find someone.
No, yeah, because I think it was such a culture difference. Like it's such a generational difference from the music, from what we seeing on TV, from what's like socially acceptable now and things like that. Like, before, it was a certain way that a man had to treat a woman.
Yes. And
like, if you didn't treat a woman that way, no, like, you the whole community bans you.
Right.
Now it's like, it's no standards.
and so, I'm out in these streets kind of. I don't know that my girls believe in arranged marriages, but I'm out in these streets looking for them.
No, what's so crazy? I've been learning about arranged marriages, and as you educate yourself on them, I actually think they make sense.
They make sense.
They make a lot of sense, because
can I give you Jasmine and Trinity's phone number so you can tell them that arranged marriages make sense?
It makes sense, because my Uber driver one time, his daughter, he was like, yeah, my daughter is about to get married, and he said it was an arranged marriage, and I'm like, wow, how does your daughter feel about that? He's like, she's really excited, and we spoke to their parents, we developed a relationship with them. I know the son, I knew the son for a really long time, I knew the family for a long time, they knew us for a long time, and they were like, his point was like, who knows you best than your village and your parents and your family? Right now, I do think there can be some, definitely everything has cons.
Okay, we're not trying to sell them for cows and goats or anything.
Yes.
So it's about, you want them to be happy.
Yes. So I see a lot of pros. I do see one con. I just see is just like, I think it could become a con when it's forced. Right. If you're forced to marry somebody that you really just not engaged with and things like that, that's a con. But if somebody, and at the end of the day,
how do you meet people if everything you're doing is online? How are you going out and meeting people if people aren't coming to meetings, or people are
everything is digital.
Everything is digital. Yeah. Like, I guess take up golf. That's not a bad idea. Going to the gym, going to church. But these are things that a lot of young people aren't really doing, and so how do you even begin
on a media? On a media,
school, school's a great place, right, to meet someone in college. But you should be focused on your study. No?
That is not.
Yeah, both my girls went to A&T, and I don't have a son-in-law or anything yet.
Maybe one time it was, but not
no more. Yeah.
No, I think, I'm not gonna lie, really, social media has taken over. Like, I know a lot of people who's meeting their significant others on social media, which is so crazy.
Okay, but what about the dating sites?
I was just about to get to that, which is so crazy because, and I have this argument with my friend all the time. I'm like, Instagram, it's a dating app. Instagram is literally a dating app. And
is that when you slide into someone's DMs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Or you like the story now? You like the story now? Right? I feel like Instagram is legit a dating app, but some people will look at like a Tinder or something like that and be like, oh, this person on Tinder, they desperate. But I'm like, Instagram, I guess my friend's point of view was like, okay, but you go on Instagram, yeah, initial thing isn't like I'm on here searching for a husband or for a wife. But when you go on Tinder, you know exactly what you're on there for. Like, you're on there to find.
The problem with Instagram is that people are posting like their best selves on Instagram.
You do that on Tinder too.
Well, I don't really know how Tinder works, but that might not be that person's real life, right? Like that might be their representative.
But okay.
And then when the person comes and you get to know them a little bit, what you saw of this that might not be what you get.
But I think that you can have the same thing meeting somebody in person, right? Where like you meet them one time at an event, right. They looked all good. You was liking what you see. Then you got to really know them, and you're like, it's not like that.
It's not like that,
right? So I think like that can happen, in real life, and but eventually the colors show. So I think like I don't know. I think Instagram. There's a lot of relationships that come out of
dating app. I learned a
lot of relationships come out of Instagram. You'll be surprised. There's somebody getting DM'd down right now. They going down in the DMs. But my last question now I will ask you though is, this is the Young and Dumb show.
Okay.
So I want to know what is, and not in a negative way, but what is one of the dumbest things you've done? You looked at yourself and said, Cameron, why would I do that? Right?
What was one of the dumbest things that I've done?
Or a big learning lesson that you had in life?
Oh, that's a great question. What is one of the...
I hope nobody ever asks me this one day.
Where I went to high school.
What do you mean by that?
So I lived in a time where, parents weren't helicopter parents, where they weren't really like all into everything that you did. And so I picked my high school based on where my best friend, we both got into the same place. And instead of going so I went to Grace Dodge Vocational High School in the Bronx.
I don't even know what that is.
And it was a vocational school where, you learned, math and that sort of stuff. But like, I didn't take calculus in high school because it was a vocational school that was about preparing you for, I think I was studying like secretarial type stuff. Right. But I didn't know, and it was right. You go from middle school, you go to high school, and they give you a book and you pick. And it wasn't like visiting high school. None of the things that you do now. But I didn't know, but it's not about where you start; it's about where you finished. And so that was kind of like a dumb way to pick a high school based on where my best friend at the time was going, because we're not even best friends anymore. We're not even in touch anymore.
Wow. Lesson learned, y'all. Don't do something just because your friend is doing it.
That's right.
Be okay with following your own judgment, following something that really aligns with where you trying to go. Because something that I learned is, do it alone if you have to.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? And sometimes when you go to places alone, you'll really get things from a better experience because you're not in somebody else's world. You're not, if they want to leave, you don't have to leave. If they going through this, you don't have to go through it. Like, you get to experience it from how you want to experience. So don't be afraid to just Do it how you want to do it. And make your own choices.
It's so funny. I went to an event last night by myself. I think I am a introverted extrovert.
Me too. That's what I was saying.
I knew I liked you. And so I present like an extrovert, but I'm really not. But when I do these things by myself, I sort of like psych myself out, and it's like, okay, you're gonna meet 5 new people, right? Like, I am not one who will go in a place and stand with people who I know. Even if they're people who I know there, I'm going to break away and make new contacts, because it's sort of like pushing yourself to do it. And it's important because you're not going to meet anyone new if you're just standing in this clique talking to each other. And so do it alone if you have to. And it gets less scarier the more you do it.
I told you, the bottle of confidence. That's how I look at things. If I do it one time, it's going to give me the confidence that I can do it again next time. And then you just got to look at life like, what is the worst thing that can happen?
What? They can't eat you.
Like, you stutter, okay, or you have something on your face, okay, or you forgot to ask the right question, okay. Life goes on. You know what I'm saying?
I like to say nobody died.
Like, no. So we gonna end it off on that. Nobody died, you know what I'm saying? Life goes on. But yes, I appreciate this conversation I had with you. I think this was a great one. Learned a lot, talked about a lot. And where can people find you? How can people stay connected with you?
You can find me at Karen B-Towns on all platforms.
Karen B-Towns on all platforms. Make sure y'all tap in. If y'all enjoyed this conversation, see y'all next week. Peace.